Hello, welcome back to our Better Riding series. This is where we are going to try and make everyone better, smoother, safer at motorcycle riding with plenty of tips and tricks and advice too, and even a squeaky chair I'm sitting on. We say thank you as well to Honda Motorcycles UK who are supporting this series, which is why there's an NX500 in the studio. Bit random. Okay, well, let's bring in Bike Social's very own Motorbike Coach, the man with the roadcraft, the machine control, and the mindset, all the way from Australia. It's Mark McVeigh.
G'day, Michael. How are you?
Hello, Mark. Yeah, very well. How's it going? How's Australia today?
Not too bad, not too bad. We've had a few kangaroos hopping around here, so try not to get distracted. And we got a squeaky frog as well somewhere, so hopefully it won't affect our audio.
Maybe you can out-squeak my stool, but there's certainly no kangaroos here. Now then, sir, what are we talking about today, Mr. McVeigh?
Yes, we are talking about the right line, the right riding line every time.
Perfect. All right. Interesting. How might we do that? Tell me.
Well, we touched on this in episode 2, and that was the safety bubble. At our school, we've developed the modern riding system of skill, craft, and mind, and part of that craft pillar is the safety bubble, and that's basically will help us ride the right line every time. And it's not just a simple way to ride defensively, but it's kind of like a system that helps make your riding flow. And part of it is it's just important to understand that your line around the corner is dynamic, and it changes depending on the hazards around you. So if we pump on this clip, you can see the safety bubble. It's kind of like an imaginary force field, to maximize your space and optimize your speed relative to those hazards. So the more space you give yourself, the more time you have to see and react to those hazards. And when the hazards get close, the safety bubble gets smaller, like it's yellow here, and you reduce your speed to reflect that. And then when the safety bubble gets bigger, and like here it's going to go to green, then you can speed up because your risk reduces.
I got you. So I assume that green means good, but do you want to run through those safety bubble colors?
Yeah, the colors, so kind of pretty simple, but green is kind of like you're hazard aware, and you're looking at your positioning, to maximize your space away from that hazard. When we go to yellow, the safety bubble, it kind of gets smaller, and that hazard risk is increasing. So you're slowing, you're really looking at your positioning, and you're looking at covering your brakes. And then red, that's the kind of the biggest hazard risk, so you're on the brakes positioning and you're kind of ready to stop.
This is something that you can just pretend in your imagination that when you're riding, you have this it's like a reference point thing, isn't it? A virtual circle.
Yeah, exactly right. These next clips coming up, we'll talk a little bit about those positions. So we'll just quickly refresh on our line positions so everybody knows what we're talking about. So 1, 2, and 3. So line positions, very important to understand those. But essentially when you're cornering, it's like you're joining the dots, and these dots are actually reference points.
Oh, okay. Tell us what you mean by reference points. How many are there? What can we expect to see?
Well, typically there's 4. So, where you brake, that's one. And the point that you turn in, apex, which is, the middle of the corner, and then the exit point. And that kind of helps you break the corner up into manageable sections. So if we pop this next reel up, we'll just run through it first, and then we'll go back and just dissect it step by step. But if you pick a line through the corner, it could look like this. There's no hazards and good vision, and we're using the full width of the line. So if we bring this back and we'll go step by step, we're coming from the middle of the road, line position 3 into 1 because of the right hand corner. So see and be seen, and then we've got our point where we brake. Okay, so we've got a bit of brake on, and then the next point that's going to come up is where we turn in. And often this is, you could be still slowing with your engine brake or a little bit of trail braking, and you're tipping into the corner, looking for the middle of the corner. Maybe about this point, you're kind of on that neutral throttle. And then you arrive at the middle of the corner, or the apex. And then from here, the final reference point that you're looking for is the exit point. So you're accelerating out. You're back to, using the full width of the line position 1, and you come to that exit point. So that's kind of typically, how you would break up the corner using those reference points.
Why do we need reference points? Does your frog want to answer for you?
I'm not sure if that was a frog or that time, but we won't go there. But listen, reference points are a great way to prevent you getting lost on a corner. You're proactively looking ahead to plan and position your bike. And, have you ever been lost on a corner? I know I have. Yeah. And it's not a cool thing. And, if, for example, if you're doing 40 miles an hour, in the middle of the corner, that's about 60 feet in 1 second. So if you get lost for a split second, you could very easily end up in a field. So that's what those reference points are for, to prevent us getting lost in the corner.
Look, it's really, really important. And from when we do riding in the UK, certainly when we've got, whether it's B roads, A roads, it can be very easy to become distracted by lovely scenery. But also, if you're in a corner that tightens suddenly, or even opens, you've got to make sure that you have got it in your psyche, in your natural reactions to be able to react quickly and effectively and safely, of course. How do those reference points work with the safety bubble system then? How do they cross over?
Yeah, so this is when things become dynamic. So if we look at this next clip, the same corner, but this time we've got a car. So you can see, we need to adjust our line. So instead of apexing in line position 3, as we did before, shown in the red, that would put us very close to that car. So we're apexing kind of line position 2 this time. And, that gives us a bit more space to the car and just gets us thinking about that hazard a bit more. And then, of course, once we're past that hazard, we can, we go to green, we can go back into line position 3.
Yeah, got you. What happens, Mark, if that car, we're kind of making an assumption there with that video that that car driver is just taking a nice, safe, normal line, but with all the distractions in cars these days, what happens if he's, I don't know, texting, listening to the radio, trying to take his own dynamic line? Maybe he's trying to cut across the corner and take it faster. Maybe he's late for work. What happens if the car's then in a different position, an unexpected position, maybe even over the central line?
Yeah, this happens a lot, the head-on situation. So let's bring that car in and see what happens. So, the rider's already spotted that the car, because we're looking far ahead, he's seen, or he or she sees the car is not on a good trajectory. So already in line position 1, on the brakes, slowing down. And then when we get to the kind of the apex, this is where his original line was, but because the rider's looking so far ahead, they've kind of seen this happening, and that's the important thing, to have that vision. And then, of course, once you pass the hazard, you can go, head home and change your underwear in this case.
Mark, you said see and be seen, and it's such an important tip, isn't it? To make sure that you're looking all the way through the corner. It's great in that example that, you've got the ability, we assume, to look all the way through the corner. But the more information you can spot, the better a picture you can build, and therefore you'll avoid those, you'll be able to adjust your line accordingly, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's see how this works in real life. So we've got this clip, we'll just let it run through to the end, and then we'll bring it back and dissect it. But there's lots of things going on, there's hazards, there's safety bubble, there's reference points, there's cars, there's truck, there's things on the road, loss of adhesion. It's also raining. You can see a little bit of dampness on the screen there. So it's a good example of kind of the real world and how we would apply that kind of safety bubble riding system. And here's our big truck going past. So this is a good one. So we'll just jump back to the start and dissect it bit by bit. So straight piece of road. We can be in line position 3. That's kind of maximizing, the distance to the hazards. It could be, an animal, like we're in Australia here, we've got kangaroos, and everything's trying to jump out in front of you. So it kind of, that's the best place to be. And then as we know there's a corner coming up here, so we're kind of, back to line position 2. Our safety bubble gets a bit smaller now because we're heading towards line position 1. And if we just back that up just a fraction, you can see, okay, it's giving us a hazard here. So there's a kind of S-bend coming up, but nothing dramatic so far. So
you're running downhill, it's going to affect your braking a little bit if you do need to brake, right? But you've also got, I can see that sort of a farm track look on the right-hand side from where you are, and there looks to be some machinery or some vehicles coming that way. So to me, and I talk a lot. When I ride, I talk a lot to myself. I almost commentate on what I can see just to help me keep focus, because there's so many, like I said earlier, there's so many distractions on the road these days. If I talk to myself, I know that I can kind of tell myself about the corner or about the potential hazards that I'm seeing. So I can see, for example, there, those machinery, that machinery might well have dragged gravel or muck or made the surface less grippy.
Absolutely. That's a really good point, and you'll see what's happened in a sec. So right now, when our position, we're saying, okay, there's a couple of other potential hazards here, driveways, but we can see they're clear, so that's not such a biggie. But we're definitely keeping an eye on, there's a big heavy machine, what's going on there. That's kind of like an alarm bell, right? So we're having a look. We're having a look through the corner. We can see the corner's clear. There's nobody coming the other way, so that kind of depicts our reference point, our turn-in point. But there's something on the road here, so it's getting quite busy. We're looking at our reference point, and we could be doing this, with our peripheral vision, because our direct vision is looking at that vanishing point. But there's something on the road, so safety bubble goes to yellow. We're kind of rolling out into a neutral throttle, and we're going, okay, there's something on the road here, but we're at our turn-in. The road's still clear. We can see it's not too bad. It's just a bit of mud. So using the full width of the line is good in this situation, because you need less lean angle for a given corner speed. So less lean angle going over mud or dirt or something's a good idea. And then if you don't
want to be braking or affecting or making any of the controls of the bike with sudden movements.
Exactly. No abrupt moves. Don't surprise the tires. You can just kind of roll over this. It's nothing too dramatic. So we're already, thinking about that, and we're happy, on our peripheral, on our mind, that's okay. Still looking through the vanishing point, make sure there's nothing coming. We're happy to apex at line position 3, because there's no oncoming cars, right? So let's use the full width of the line. Back to line position 3, full safety bubble now. We can see the road's clear. And we're, like you say, we're still going downhill. So we just, check our speed. That's important. And we've got a left-hander here coming up. So again, vision right through the vanishing point, looking for those potential hazards. We're in line position 3. And we're picking line position 2 here because it's quite a wide radius corner. So it's kind of just the natural line for this turn is to finish in 2 there. And we'll stay in 2. There's something up ahead. So, okay, we'll just stay in 2. What's this? Coming the other way. Okay, it's a car. It seems to be, staying on that side of the road. Often I'll use my vision, like between the car and the white line. Is that distance changing? Often that's kind of indication, the driver's distracted or on their phone. They're kind of weaving, on the road as they're glancing down at their phone and looking at the road, it's unbelievable that happens these days. But yeah, in this case, okay, we're happy. The car's, trajectory's good. And we're kind of staying in line position 2. We've got a bit of a brow of a hill here. So, we're in the country. There could be a tractor or something parked at the side of the road. So the logic here is to kind of split the difference, to manage the risk the best. So we'll kind of stay in line position 2 there.
Yeah, Mark, can I jump in here?
Yeah.
If I was talking to myself, I'd be saying things like, well, even though I can't see the road over the brow of the hill, I know there's no abrupt corners because there are no signs. So it's often interpreting the information that's not there either. But I also know I can see that the tree line is fairly straight and it doesn't curl either way, which again is a good indication that the road is still straight. Incidentally, what sort of speed are you carrying here? Do you remember?
So that would be probably, this road's 80 kilometers an hour, so I would be doing 80.
So what's that in English? About 50, right? It's just over 50, I think.
Okay, so yeah, still in line position 2. We've got a corner coming up here, Michael, and we've got some information. So yep, we've got a right-hand corner, nothing dramatic. It all looks tickety-boo there. And then we're just going to go to line position 1, to optimize, see and be seen. There's a driveway there, so we're just keeping an eye on that peripherally. We've picked our turn-in point at line position 1, just keeping an eye on that driveway, and we've got our vision pointing around the corner, so to the vanishing point. We're picking line position 3 for our apex because we know the road's clear. And there's another driveway there, but we can see there's nothing imminent, just keeping an eye on that. And then we've got, okay, what's this? Okay, this is significant. This is a big truck. It's a narrow road. So we're just rolling out of the throttle. The truck looks like it's not weaving around at all. It's staying in its line there. So that's good. So we're confident. We'll just head into line position 1. We can see the gravel at the side of the road as well. So just being a little bit aware of that. And we'll stick to line position 1. Truck's behaving itself. Okay. And we're good to go. So back into line position 3 and maximize that safety bubble. So that's kind of, the real road, if you like, if that makes sense.
It's interesting because you've got a lot of information that you're processing all the time here, aren't we? We talked earlier on about, is it 60 feet per second at 40 miles an hour? Well, you're running a little bit faster than 40 miles an hour in that particular clip. So there's a lot of information that's happening at a very, very fast rate of knots. But I'm really intrigued by the safety bubble system. There must be other benefits about it, right? When using it?
Well, I guess it kind of respects the riding fundamentals, as we call them, see and be seen. That's a big one. So you position so you can see around the corner and whatever's coming the other way, they can see you. And then stopping in your line in the distance, you can see. That's another one, very important. And then bringing in a buffer to those hazards, like you kind of automatically maximizing that buffer to the hazards. But because it's kind of systemized, it becomes intuitive. And like you were saying before, I do the same thing. I have a commentary when I'm riding, and you try and be better each time. And sometimes, you're not in the optimum position and you might get a surprise. Oh, jeepers, there's a car there. I didn't see that. So I kind of reprimand myself, and next time then that goes in your memory banks, right? That's your sixth sense and your intuition to kind of keep you safe the next time. And then the other thing about the safety bubble, it does encourage that kind of lateral or sideways movement in your line. And that has a way of increasing visibility because it kind of reduces motion camouflage. So lots of benefits, but it's kind of, I like it because, it optimizes your safety, reduces the risk, but it's still fun. Your riding can still flow. So yeah, it works really well.
It almost makes your riding into a computer game, doesn't it? Because if you're commentating all the time, obviously it certainly looks like that from when you've got that overhead view. But look, so see and be seen, and I like that motion. So you're always sort of being, you're making the other vehicles on the road, other road users aware of your presence. I certainly do that a lot at nighttime, or if I'm coming up behind another car, I know full well they can see my headlight in their rear view mirror, or they should be able to. And of course, with a little bit of movement, lateral movement, it'll hopefully create attention in their peripheral vision. So see and be seen and commentary, and there's a lot of interesting facts there. And I love this safety bubble sort of system, and I'm going to be using that the next time I ride. I'm going to imagine there was this the yellow and the green and the red bands around me.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Mark, is there anything else that you'd like to add in at the moment in terms of a summary?
It's always good just to remember, about the 10,000 hours to mastery, if you like. And if you think about it, takes, 20, 30 hours to get your license. And then, 10,000 hours of practicing the right, skills, the correct skills for mastery. And that's always something just good to remember. And, is it, have you done 1,000 hours or 2,000? That all helps, just that continual improvement sort of mindset to improve your riding, have more fun, and reduce your risk.
It's all about making sure you're practicing the right thing as well.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Mark, thank you again for your time and your insight and your input.
No worries. I enjoyed it.
We'll see you next time.
No worries. Thanks, Michael.
So for everybody else, look, I hope you've enjoyed the show, this episode. I hope you've taken something from it. I certainly have. And even if you just take one element and practice that on your next ride, and perhaps come back, watch the video and take the next element and practice that on the following ride, it'll all be a little bit more helpful on everyone can become a better rider that way. Okay, in the next episode, that'll be episode 4, Mark and I will be discussing overtaking and filtering. So if you have an opinion, a question, a comment about this episode, a previous episode, perhaps what's coming next, feel free to in the comments section, of course, like all good YouTubers, they have to say that. But also we have our new community website, and it's called Bike Club. So search on your search engine for Bike Social Bike Club and join us there. Lots of fun. Of course, the first rule of Bike Club is that we do talk about Bike Club. And of course, if you're not yet a Bike Social member, you could be, if you're not already, reaping the rewards. There's about 150 motorcycle-related deals and competitions on offers and discounts. Get there now. Membership is free if you insure your motorcycle directly with Bennett's. You can become a Bike Social member otherwise, even if you don't, and that's £6 a month or £60 a year. Okay, look forward to seeing you next time. Honda Motorcycles are supporting this series because safety is one of their key business pillars, and their quest for safety inspires their innovations in products, technology, and education, which is why they're committed to achieving zero traffic fatalities involving Honda mobility products worldwide by 2050.